And then when he finishes, we're going to move right into doing the stations. And when we do that, you will hopefully hear God speak to you as each station comes up. And then there will be a response for each of us to read aloud together. So with that, Father, thank you. Thank you.
I want to congratulate Mike for giving us such a wonderful testimony about prayer. And when he said, after prayer you feel nice. I had a pastor who was very good in wine tasting. Various days he used to bring bottles and ask the father which is the best one to choose for different occasions. So I was wondering what he knows about it. So one day I asked him, Father, how do you figure out which wine is the best wine? He said, yeah, it's pretty simple. You drink the wine, and after a while, if there is a nice taste in the mouth, that's a good wine. So when Mike was saying, I was thinking of, after prayer, though you may feel bored or whatever during, but the after effect of prayer is very special, very nice. So thank you for sharing. And I want to congratulate our men of faith, the entire team for doing a great job in our parish of building a faith community of prayer. As Bishop Barber, whenever he meets me, he says, I am so happy we have so many men coming to pray together. Because some people think men does not pray. There's a truism that way, but it is not. So we are really privileged that we have this beautiful praying group in our community. One Sunday morning, devil appeared before a small town congregation. Everyone started screaming and running up for the front church door, trampling each other in a frantic effort to get away. Soon, everyone was gone, except for an elderly gentleman who sat calmly. The devil walked up to the man and said, Don't you know who I am? The man replied, Yep, sure do. He asked, Aren't you going to run? No, sure I ain't, said the man. Troubled. The devil asked, Why are you afraid of me? The man calmly replied, Been married to your sister for 48 years. A drunk staggers out of a bar, and on the sidewalk he runs into two priests. He goes over to the first priest and says, Dude, I am Jesus Christ. The priest says, No, son, you are not. So the drunk goes over to the second priest and says, Man, I am Jesus Christ. The priest says, No, son, you are not. Finally, the drunk had enough and said, Here, I will prove it. He walks back into the bar with both priests, and the bartender looks up and sees the drunk and says, Jesus Christ, you are back again. A girl asks her father, Why does it rain? Is it God weeping? No, says the father. It rains to make the plants grow. Do you understand? Not exactly, says the girl. Why does it rain on the sidewalk? It takes a while, I guess. Now, today we are going to reflect on, as Roy said, on the Stations of the Cross. Suffering is a very common experience. I don't know whether anybody in this room who has had no experience of suffering. If there is anybody, please raise your hand. we all go through different types of suffering. So, what is suffering? Why do we suffer? So, different people have different answers. For example, an atheist philosopher like Nietzsche, he says it's essential for growth. And Buddhist, Buddha, actually Buddhism is supposed to be an atheistic religion because they do not recognize a God. But it is self-fulfillment, self-realization, what they call nirvana. So for Buddhists, suffering is a result of attachment and ignorance. That is to say, you think this world is everything and you are so limited to, so you suffer when things go wrong. That's a basic Buddhist understanding. Psychologists view it as emotional pain needing healing. We know how psychologists people go for counseling and psychotherapy and all that. Existentialist, it's a group of philosophers. They say it's inherent to life. It's part of life. Religious people. For example, in Hinduism, it is karma, meaning the result of what you did in your past life or previous life or earlier in life. So that's how you suffer. In Islam, suffering is seen as a test from God, a way to purify sins, and an opportunity for patience. And what about Christianity? Suffering is often seen as a test of faith, a means of spiritual growth and sharing in Christ's sacrifice. That's what actually the Stations of the Cross is. We are sharing in the suffering of Jesus. The Stations of the Cross is known as the Way of the Cross also, or in Latin, Via Crucis. Same thing, Way of the Cross. Is a devotional practice in Christianity that commemorates the Passion of Jesus Christ, particularly the events of his journey to Calvary. This devotion invites us to reflect on the suffering and sacrifice of Jesus as we meditate on a series of images or markers depicting specific moments along his path to crucifixion. These moments are traditionally called stations. And if you go to our church, we see on the walls, in every Catholic church, on the walls you see the stations, those specific moments. So how did it begin? The historical starting point of this, how the stations began. So it actually began in the 4th century, in 335 AD, with Emperor Constantine. You know, Christianity was an underground religion. It was not legal. You could be arrested, put in prison, or even killed. So, after Emperor Constantine made it a legal religion, meaning you can practice openly, so people began to visit the Holy Land, Palestine. And when they go there, they wanted to walk the path that Jesus walked from the palace of Pilate to Mount Golgotha. So people started doing that. But then what happened was, this Middle Ages, that is around 11th, 12th century, the Holy Land became a very difficult place to go to because of political turmoil, because Islam had conquered Jerusalem and it was moving and it took over Turkey And so they would not allow any passages. If you go there, they will kill you, basically. So people would not go there. That's where these two religious orders came about. If you heard, remember, Knights Templar and another knight, I forget the real name of that group.
Hospitallers.
Huh?
Hospitallers? The Hospitallers.
Hospital, yeah. Knights Hospitaller. Hospital, how do you say it? It's called Hospitallers or something like that, sorry. So the Hospitallers were the ones who were providing food and accommodation to the pilgrims going into Palestine. And the Knights Templars were the bodyguards. They would accompany the pilgrims with weapons to protect them. But this was not practical. So finally, what they decided was that the churches and monasteries will create something that can replicate this actual pilgrimage to Holy Land. So the Franciscan, as usual, they did a great job with the manger. Saint Francis put up the manger first because people could see Joseph and Mary and Jesus, child baby Jesus. So the Saint Franciscans created these stations of the cross in 13th century in churches and formalizing this into these 13 stations. Since we will be praying it, I am not reading the stations. So traditionally there are only 14 stations, but in some places they add a 15, which is the resurrection of Christ. But that's a modern addition to what was the tradition. So each station, as we said, represents a moment of profound spiritual significance, inviting participants to reflect on themes such as sacrifice, redemption, love, and human suffering. Some stations like Jesus falling under the cross or Veronica wiping the face are not explicitly in the Bible. So you don't see anywhere Bible Veronica going and wiping the face of Christ. It is not there. Or that Jesus falls under the burden of the cross. It's not there. But they come from tradition and Christian reflection. What is the spiritual significance of the stations? That is, what do we gain by it, by doing the stations? It provides a tangible way for believers to connect with the suffering of Christ and His love for humanity. You know, I used to tell people who have a lot of suffering and pain, keep a crucifix and look at it. It's healing. Just looking at the crucifix is healing. So I invite our families to have a crucifix in a prominent place in our homes. At one time in my life, I had a lot of struggles and suffering and pain, and I was talking to a priest who was a very wise man. He said, "Father, when you feel that way, look at the crucifix." Would you imagine? It really helped me. I didn't say any special prayer or anything, but just looking at the crucifix heals us. So that's why the Stations of the Cross is a very powerful devotion. By meditating on His passion, we are encouraged to grow in humility, gratitude, and compassion. Each station serves as a reminder of the cost of sin and the depth of God's mercy. As that saying says, someone asked Jesus, "How much do you love?" And He stretched out His arms on the cross and said, "This much," meaning whole of it. His entire life is love for each one of us. This devotion is particularly associated with the Lent, especially on Fridays and Good Friday, when Catholics and other Christians commemorate Jesus' crucifixion. It includes prayers, reading from the scripture, and hymns as participants move from one station to another. So this is what we plan to do this season of Lent. Every Friday we are going to start Stations of the Cross in our church at 7 p.m. I want to invite all of us to participate in this and feel that spiritual enrichment, that connection with divinity. If God, who is Almighty, went through all this suffering and rejection, and when you go through it, you really feel. If we can get that strength and ask, why not I? Why can't I also participate in this stations as Jesus himself did? Modern adaptations. So this is what traditions. In current or contemporary practice, the Stations of the Cross are observed not only in traditional settings, but also in outdoor installations. How many of you have been to San Damiano here in Danville? Yeah, if you go there, you see outdoor Stations of the Cross. It's a nice thing to go and look at it. So it is retreats, and it is done during retreats and public processions. Where I grew up in India, we had a huge hill, and on top of this hill is a cross and things like that. And on Good Fridays of Lent, people will start at the base of the mountain and they will temporarily put up stations, and they go, and would you believe people kneel on bare ground when they reach the stations till they reach on top. It's a very moving experience to do these Stations of the Cross. Some communities incorporate social justice themes. That's a very modern thing, like drawing parallels between Christ's suffering and modern struggles such as poverty, oppression, and human rights violations. So they incorporate that as part of meditating on the stations. So it's a powerful devotional practice that has endured for centuries, starting from actually 4th century. During 4th century, we said they really went there to Jerusalem and walked it. But when they could not, they made it in our churches. Its meditative journey enables believers to walk with Christ in his final hours, deepening their faith and understanding of his sacrificial love. It is a reminder of the hope and redemption offered through the Passion, inspiring Christians to carry their own crosses with courage and grace. Anybody has any questions, or you want to share anything about it, what we said? Anybody has any comments?
I think we have one comment over there, Father, and then
Oh.
we'll start the stations.
I think it's at Romans 7 or 8. When I see myself doing the very thing I hate, it's no longer I doing the sin, but the sin at work in me. You've got to look at yourself through the eyes of Christ and see, I am redeemed by God's grace,
Thank you.
now and forever.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, Ed.
Going on with what Mike said, in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, it says, let us lay aside the sin which so easily entangles us. In verse 2, it says, fixing our eyes upon Jesus. Look what you said, looking at the crucifix. Fixing our eyes upon Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is now set down at the right hand of God's throne. And that's by focusing on Jesus, we get absorbed absorbed by his love.
Oh, great. Thank you, Father. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father.
Can I get back to you in a few minutes? We're going to move on to the portion where we share the stations.
Okay, so really quickly, this is how this hopefully is going to work. This is essentially an extended dialogue between you all and Jesus as he moves through the stations of the cross. And the person of Jesus is going to be represented by readers that will stand up among the audience and read something for that station. And then we ask that you please, together in unison, read something that you'll see on the slide for that same station. I'll start off with a little introduction, and then we'll get right into station number 1, so hold on. These 14 steps that you are now about to walk, you do not take alone. I walk with you. Though you are you, and I am I, yet we are truly one. And therefore, my way of the cross 2,000 years ago, and your way now are also one. But note this difference. My life was incomplete until I crowned it by my death. Your 14 steps will only be complete when you have crowned them with your life. Station number 1. Jesus is condemned.
In Pilate's hands, I see my Father's will. Though Pilate is unjust, he has earthly power over me. And so the Son of God obeys. If I can bow to my Father's will, can you also submit, even in the face of injustice?
My Jesus is Lord, obedience costs you your life. For me it costs an act of will, no more, and yet how hard it is for me to bend. Remove the blinders from my eyes, that I may see that it is you alone whom I obey. Lord, it is you.
Station number 2. Jesus takes his cross.
This cross, this chunk of tree, is what my Father chose for me. The crosses you must bear are largely products of your daily life, and yet my Father chose them too for you. Receive them from his hands. Take heart. I will not let your burdens grow 1 ounce too heavy for your strength.
My Jesus, Lord, I take my daily cross. I welcome the monotony that often marks my day, discomforts of all kinds, the summer's heat, the winter's cold, my disappointments, tensions, setbacks, cares. Remind me often that in carrying my cross, I carry yours with you, and though I bear a sliver only of your cross, you carry all of mine, except the sliver in return.
Everybody been able to hear the readers so far? Okay, we'll keep going. Station 3, Jesus calls.
The God who made the universe and holds it in existence by his will alone becomes a man, too weak to bear a piece of timber's weight. How human is his weakness as the Son of God? My Father willed it thus. I could not be your model otherwise. You must also accept without complaint your human frailties.
Lord Jesus, how can I refuse? I willingly accept my weaknesses, my irritations, and my moods, my headaches and fatigue, all my defects of body, mind, and soul. Because they are your will for me, these handicaps of my humanity, I gladly suffer them. Make me content strength to struggle after you.
Station 4. Jesus meets his mother.
My mother sees me whipped. She sees me kicked and driven like a beast. She counts my every wound. Though her soul cries out in agony, no protest or complaint escapes her lips or even enters her thoughts. She shares my martyrdom and I share hers. We hide no pain, no sorrow from each other's eyes. This is my Father's will.
My Jesus is Lord, I know what you are telling me. To watch the pain of those we love is harder than to bear our own. To carry my cross after you, I too must stand and watch the sufferings of my dear ones, the heartaches, sicknesses, and grief of those I love. And I must let them watch mine too. I do believe for those who love you, all things work together to good.
Station 5. Simon helps Jesus. My strength is gone. I can no longer bear the cross alone. And so the legionnaires make Simon give me aid. This Simon is like you. Give me your strength. Each time you lift some burden from another's back, you lift as with your very hand the cross's awful weight that crushes me.
Lord, make me realize that every time I wipe a dish, pick up an object off the floor, assist a child in some small task, or give another preference in traffic or the store. Each time I feed the hungry, clothe the naked, teach the ignorant, or lend my hand in any way. It matters not to whom, my name is Simon. And the kindness to them I really give to you.
Station 6. Veronica helps Jesus.
Can you be brave enough to wipe my bloody face? Where is my face, you ask? At home, when her eyes fill up with tears. At work, when tensions rise. On playgrounds, in the slums, the courts, the hospitals, the jails. Wherever suffering exists, my face is there. And there I look for you to wipe away my blood and tears.
Lord, what you ask is hard. It calls for courage and self-sacrifice, and I am weak. Please give me strength. Don't let me run away because of fear. Lord, live in me, and act in me, and love in me, and not in me alone, in all of us, so that we may reveal no more your bloody, but your glorious face on earth.
Station 7. Jesus falls again.
The seventh step is one that tests your will. From this fall, learn to persevere in doing good. The time will come when all your efforts seem to fail and you think, I can't go on. Then turn to me, my heavy burdened one, and I will give you rest. Trust me and carry on.
Give me your courage, Lord, when failure presses heavily on me, and I am desolate. Stretch out your hand to lift me up. I know I must not cease, but persevere in doing good. Help me, Lord. Alone there is nothing I can do. With you I can do anything you ask. I will.
Station 8. Jesus consoles the women.
How often had I longed to take the children of Jerusalem and gather them to me, but they refused. But now these women weep for me, and my heart mourns for them, mourns for their sorrows that will come. I comfort those who seek to solace me. How gentle can you be? How kind.
My Jesus, your compassion and your passion is beyond compare. Lord, teach me, help me learn. When I would snap at those who hurt me with their ridicule, those who misunderstand or hinder me with some misguided helpfulness, those who intrude upon my privacy, then help me curb my tongue. May gentleness become my cloak. Lord, make me kind like you.
Station 9, the third fall.
Completely drained of strength, I lie, collapsed upon the cobblestones. My body cannot move. No blows, no kicks can rouse me up. And yet my will is mine, and so is yours. Know this, your body may be broken, but no force on earth and none in hell can take away your will. Your will is yours.
My Lord, I see you take a moment's rest, then rise and stagger on. So I can do, because my will is mine. When all my strength is gone, and guilt and self-reproach press me further, and seem to hold me fast, protect me from the sin of Judas, save me from despair. Lord, never let me feel that any sin of mine is greater than your love. No matter what my past has been, I can begin anew.
Station 10, Jesus is stripped. Behold, the poorest king who ever lived. Before my creatures I stand stripped. The cross, my deathbed, even this is not my own. Yet who has ever been so rich? Possessing nothing, I own all, my Father's love. If you too would own everything, be not solicitous about your food, your clothes, your life.
My Lord, I offer you my all, whatever I possess and more possess. Detach me from the craving for prestige, position, wealth. Root out of me all trace of envy on my neighbor who has more than I. Release me from the vice of pride, my longing to exalt myself, and lead me to the lowest place. May I be poor in spirit, Lord, so that I can be rich in you.
Station 11, Jesus is crucified.
Can you imagine what a crucifixion is? My executioners stretch my arms, they hold my hand and wrist against the wood, and press the nail until it stabs my flesh. Then, one heavy hammer smash, they drive it through, and pain bursts like a bomb of fire in my brain. They seize the other arm, and again explodes. Then, raising up my knees so my feet are flat against the wood, they hammer them fast too.
My God, I look at you and think, is my soul worth this much? What can I give you in return? I here and now accept for all my life whatever sickness, torment, agony may come. To every cross that I touch my lips.
Station 12, Jesus dies.
The cross becomes a pulpit now. Forgive them, Father. You will be with me in paradise. There is your mother. There, your son. I thirst. It is complete. To speak, I have to raise myself by pressing my wrists and feet, and every move engulfs me in new waves of agony. And then, When I have borne enough, I have emptied my humanity. I let my mortal life depart.
My Jesus, God, what can I say or do? I offer you my death with all its pains, accepting now the time and the kind of death in store for me, not by a single instant, but by the length of my lifespan. I offer you my death for my own sins and for those of all humanity. My God, forsake us not. We know not what we do.
Station 13. Jesus is taken down.
The sacrifice is done. Yes, my mass is complete, but not my mother's and not yours. My mother still must cradle in her arms the lifeless body of the son she bore. You too must part from those you love, and grief will come to you. In your bereavements, think of this. A multitude of souls were saved by Mary's sharing in my Calvary. Your grief can also be the price of souls.
I beg you, Lord, help me accept the pardons that must come. From friends who go away, my children leave home, and most of all, my dear ones, when you shall call them to yourself. Give me the grace to say, as it has pleased you, Lord, to take them home, I bow to your most holy will. And if by just one word I might restore their lives against your will, I would not speak. Grant them eternal joy.
Station 14. Jesus is buried.
So ends my mortal life. But now another life begins for Mary, for Magdalene, for Peter, and for John, and you. My work within and through my church must now commence. I look to you, day in, day out, from this time forth. Be my apostle, victim, saint.
My Jesus, Lord, you know my spirit is as willing as my flesh is weak. The teachings you could not impart, the sufferings you could not bear, the works of love you could not do in your short life on earth. Let me impart and bear and do through you. But I am nothing, Lord. Help me.
Jesus is resurrected. I told you at the start of my life that was not complete until I crowned it by my death. Your way is not complete unless you crown it by your life. Accept each moment as it comes to you with faith and trust that all that happens has my mark on it. A simple fiat, this is all it takes. A breathing in your heart, I will it, Lord. So seek me not in far off places. I am close at hand. Your workbench, office, kitchen, these are altars where you offer love, and I am there with you. Go now, take up your cross, and with your life, complete your way.
Okay, that part of tonight, a little different than we've had for the past several years, but we wanted to try and impart an understanding of the relationship that God has with us and that you all have with God. There's no question, but everyone in this room has a relationship with God, or you probably wouldn't be here. But our hope is, over the course of this year and the course of all of our lives, that relationship will develop and deepen. So I hope that had some meaning. The stations on Friday are very moving. I went on a retreat a few months ago down to St. Clair's, and they have the stations on the hill, you walk a trail. And as Father said, there's something special about doing it by yourself, all alone, and seeing the cross and the definitions as you do them. So, thank you for your participation and your help. We're now going to
Table discussions?
have the table discussion.
Okay.